Hey y'all, it's your girl Lenita Harris here, and today we're going to be continuing our series on beliefs by talking about knowledge and why it's so vital for our belief system. Let's talk about it.
It's never too late for you to embrace who you are. It's never too late to embrace who you were designed to be.
So 2 weeks ago, we started this series by simplifying things in our belief system. And we're going to continue in that vein of simplicity now, so this will be another short podcast. We all know the old saying, knowledge is powerful, right? And we all believe it. Remember last week we talked about how knowing something does not automatically equate to corresponding action? Well, it ties in here as well. We all know knowledge is powerful and believe it, but how often do we truly seek and search for new knowledge? Then, when we get that knowledge, how often do we really implement it? And here's the doozy question. How long do we implement that new knowledge before we decide it doesn't work, quote unquote, and then toss it away? This series has been about beliefs, right? And how in order to change something, we must develop a new belief. Here's the hurdle to developing the new belief: the filters our subconscious minds place on everything we encounter with our senses. See, because it will only show us information or knowledge that reinforces what we already believe. So if we're trying to develop a new belief system, we have to be very conscious to not process things the same way that we've been processing them in the area that we desire change. Here's an example. We've been taught very heavily to watch out for scams, right? Right. So much so that anything that sounds, quote unquote, too good to be true, we consider it a scam right off the bat. So say that's your primary belief. Now let's also say you've been meditating on and confessing abundance and wealth over your life. Your subconscious mind will accept that new message and then begin showing you options that align with that message of abundance and wealth. However, if your first message is, quote unquote, if it sounds too good to be true, it's probably a scam, then potentially wealthy opportunities that come your way, you will automatically label it a scam because you haven't been conscious enough to process things differently. And there will be things that we notice and we filter it as a scam that someone else will notice. And if they're not thinking about a scam, they won't view it as a scam. And however they view it, it's going to make complete sense to them. And also how you view it, it's going to make complete sense to you. Isn't that ironic? And also, how ironic is it to hold the belief that something that sounds too good to be true is a scam and also be desirous of a miracle? Because the nature of a miracle is that someone has received something that could be considered too good to be true. But I digress. That little side journey there was to illustrate that the way knowledge is filtered by our mind is vital to our belief system. Any battle won, any war fought, any change made, guys, it happens on the foundation of knowledge. Let's go to the Bible. Hosea chapter 4, verse 6 in the New King James Version says, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge." Proverbs chapter 4, verse 7, also in the New King James Version says, "Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore get wisdom, and in all you're getting, get understanding." Now, guys, I'm going to tell you a few stories, and then I'm going to wrap up, okay? Here's the first story. We're going to go to Luke chapter 18, verses 1 through 8, and this time I'm going to read it from the Message Bible. Verses 1 through 3 says, Jesus told them a story showing that it was necessary for them to pray consistently and never quit. He said, "There was once a judge in some city who never gave God a thought and cared nothing for people. A widow in that city kept after him. 'My rights are being violated. Protect me.' Verses 4 through 5. He never gave her the time of day. But after this went on, he said to himself, 'I care nothing what God thinks, and even less what people think. But because this widow won't quit badgering me, I'd better do something and see that she gets justice. Otherwise, I'm going to end up beaten black and blue by her pounding.'" Here's the second one. Luke chapter 11, verses 5 through 9, also from the Message. Verses 5 through 6, this is Jesus talking here as well. Then he said, "Imagine what would happen if you went to a friend in the middle of the night and said, Friend, lend me 3 loaves of bread. An old friend traveling through just showed up and I don't have a thing on hand. Then the friend answers from his bed, don't bother me. The door's locked. My children are all down for the night. I can't get up to give you anything. Verse 8, but let me tell you, even if he won't get up because he's a friend, if you stand your ground, knocking and waking all the neighbors, he'll finally get up and get you whatever you need. Verse 9, Jesus said, here's what I'm saying. Ask and you'll get it. Seek and you'll find. Knock and the door will open. Now, guys, here's my story that happened just last year. For a couple years, I wanted to do some upgrades on our home, but just hadn't gotten around to it. I didn't price check anything, and I did not get any knowledge, okay? Didn't look into nothing. I just had the desire. And it wasn't even a super strong desire until last year. Then, bam, last year, we had a bad toilet overflow in our home, and it was the most random thing and so bad that we needed to file a homeowner's insurance claim. Now, the timing of this accident was also quite interesting because it was a few days after Hurricane Ida. Needless to say, the insurance companies were slammed with claims and super backed up. Also, they were trying to save as much money as possible, right? So we waited for almost a month to be contacted by our claims adjuster. But in the meantime, over that month span, what was I doing? Baby, I was gathering all the knowledge. Do you hear me? I was being proactive. I was getting estimates, making phone calls, deciding who we wanted to work with, and going over my hopeful remodel options. So when it came time for our claim to be processed, our adjuster just issued us a check without even contacting us. So when I called to let her know we already had a repair estimate, which was considerably higher than the check she had just issued, she then wanted us to use that money that she'd sent and then have our repair team just bill them for the remainder on the back end. Well, that sounds simple enough, right? And it is. But that wasn't what I wanted to be done, because I had already been going over my options with my repair guy, right? So my desire was to have the insurance company write us a check for the full repair estimate. I didn't make that known to our adjuster though. I just called that lady so many doggone times asking questions and running numbers for possible options and potential roadblocks that I likely got on her nerves. Do y'all hear me? I didn't care though. I wanted to make sure that everything we absolutely needed would be fully covered and no corners would be cut by them. Baby, by the time it was all said and done, I had gained so much knowledge. I knew how the software worked, which provided the estimate, which was something she didn't even know. And that last time I got off the phone with that woman, my husband said, babe, you gonna worry that lady so much that she gonna end up just writing the full check. I immediately thought of that persistent widow with the judge and said, well, listen, that's what I want. A little while later, the lady called back and said she would just send us a separate check to go with the first one for the full amount of the repair estimate. Boom. Y'all, everything worked out for us to get exactly what we wanted, from the check to the items that we chose. Now, that path was not without quite a few hiccups, and I had to be persistent as all get out, but I wanted what I wanted, and indeed, I received it. Now, did I know our remodel would come by way of an inconvenient accident? Absolutely not. But my desire was to have a nice remodel, and guys, that's what I got. I've heard more and more in recent months the phrase, just focus on your desire, not how it will get done. Leave the how up to God. You just focus on your desire. And y'all, that phrase has held true for sure. So in conclusion, guys, we all have knowledge. It doesn't matter that we know something though. What matters is how we use what we know. I want you to get this, guys. There is no shortage of ways to get to your destination or goal. The God of provision, also known as Jehovah Jireh, our provider, or El Shaddai, the all-sufficient one, or the God that is more than enough, lives on the inside of you. I dare say it is not provision that you need, but vision to see and notice your provision when it, or a bridge to it, arrives. There's a scripture in Ephesians chapter 1, I believe it's verse 17, that says that the eyes of my understanding would be enlightened. And a lot of time, guys, that's what we need. We need the eyes of our understanding to be enlightened so that we could recognize God's answers to our prayers when they come, and not be so on autopilot that we're just allowing ourselves to continue processing things like we have always processed things. Brian Tracy says something that's really good in his audio, The Unbreakable Laws of Self-Confidence. He says, what you know now is only enough to get you to where you are now. But to get somewhere else, you need to know something different. If what you already knew was enough to get you where you want to be, then you would already be there. Isn't that powerful? So guys, get that knowledge and implement that knowledge. And in all thy getting, get an understanding. Let that story about the woman who wouldn't stop until she got what she wanted be encouragement to and for you, just like it was for me. If you're pressing towards something, baby, keep going. Keep knocking. Keep seeking, just like Jesus said, and eventually something has to break in your favor. Do you believe that? Let me say it again. Keep going. Keep knocking. Keep seeking. Keep asking, because eventually something has to break in your favor. That is the spiritual laws of sowing and reaping. Give and it shall be given unto you. Your gift will make room for you. In due season you shall reap if you faint not. Listen, guys, eventually something has to break, period. My favorite saying at this time of my life is, there is always a way to make something work, to fix it, to start anew, to salvage it, to change. There is always a way. And you've just got to keep seeking, keep knocking, keep asking, and keep going until your eyes are open to see your way. And when you find your way, baby, run with your vision, for it will take you to your expected end. There is always a way. Thanks so much for tuning into another episode of Let's Talk About It, the Gray Area, and I'll see you next week. Same time, same place.
You can start